Did you know that the difference between Sefirot and Partzufim is like the difference between data and information? In this explainer, we will look at another perspective of the relationship between Sefirot and Partzufim. Please note that all the ideas we will introduce are fully explained with source material in my latest book, Shomer Emunim, The Introduction to Kabbalah. Click on the link in the description below for details about my book. To understand how Sefirot and Partzufim can be compared to data and information, we must first understand what data and information are. For example, a 10 terabyte computer hard drive always contains 10 terabytes of data, even when it is brand new. However, when it is brand new, the data content of this hard drive has no meaning to anyone. It just contains disconnected, unpatterned data. When using this hard drive, nothing new is created. It always contains 10 terabytes of data. When the data is used, the data that already exists on it is reconfigured, organized and patterned into files, maybe as documents, spreadsheets, pictures, music, film, etc. Each reconfigured subset of data, each file, has meaning, and it is this meaning that we call information. Data is comprised of raw, unprocessed, separate bits or facts that in and of themselves are disconnected and have no meaning. In contrast, when data is observed to be brought together, integrated and connected in some way, meaningful information emerges from it in the eye of the observer. In this example, the raw data on the hard drive is like the Sefirot. Each data element is separated and segregated from each other data element. When the data elements are collected together into an organized structure as a computer file, it becomes information, the larger Partzuf that integrates the underlying Sefirot that it is made of. In essence, the Sefirot and Partzuf are identical. They are both made of the identical set of data elements. The difference between them is their organization and integration, and this causes information to emerge from them. The relationship between Sefirot and Partzufim is entirely relative, and this is reflected in the relative relationship between data and information. For example, if after doing a scientific study many data points are collected, we would call this raw data. The raw data as it stands has no meaning. It is just a collection of unconnected data points. If these data points are visually arranged in a graph that connects them together, say a line graph, then the integrated connection of these data points in the form of the graph transforms the data points into meaningful information, as these data points can now be understood in a connected context relative to each other. If the graph is then analyzed, certain trends may be understood from it, and we may call this knowledge. Using this knowledge learned from the trends, we may be empowered to make a prediction, which may be referred to as wisdom. So, in this example, we have 4 relative levels, from raw data points to graphic visualization to trend knowledge to predictive wisdom. The data points become information when configured as a graphic visualization. Then, in turn, the graphic visualization can be viewed as the next level of data that becomes information when analyzing the graph and noticing the configuration of trend groupings, which become factual knowledge. Then, in turn, the knowledge of the trend groupings becomes the next level of data from which information about future trend predictions can be identified. Each higher level within this 4-level hierarchy example can be viewed as being a relative higher level Partzuf that emerges from each relative lower level. With each higher and lower level combination, the higher level is related to as being in a relative state of Partzuf. In contrast, the lower level is related to as being in a relative state of separation, disconnection, and data, a relative state of Sefirot. The connected state of the higher level, the Partzuf view, is the integration of a specific configuration of its component Sefirot, providing visualization, insight, and intelligence to relate to that configuration as a new emerging entity. So, every Partzuf can be viewed as a new information entity that has its own emerging properties compared to the Sefirot, the separate data from which the Partzuf of information is derived. In the next explainer, we will look at examples of different types of Partzufim in the world around us and understand how this idea relates to the technological world around us. Before you go, don't forget, click on the link in the description below for details about Shomer Emunim, the Introduction to Kabbalah, which contains comprehensive explanations and sources for everything in this explainer series. So, thank you for listening. I'm looking forward to seeing you in explainer number 10.